Good morning and welcome to the Housing and Community Development Committee. We will begin as a subcommittee, and we will begin with Senate Bill 111, Senator Correa.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and Honorables. This is a very simple, very important bill. It's really a common sense bill. As you know, the mobile home residency law has been amended over the years, and it's gotten to the point where portions of this code do not flow, meaning subject matter to subject matter, you skip around. And unlike many other subjects or areas of the law, this is one where residents of mobile home parks are really their own attorneys. They rely on this for guidance. What this bill purports to do, implement common sense. What it does is it takes 12 sections. We've amended this, going to take it from 30 to 12 sections, and essentially reorganizes them so the subject matters flow. One subject is in one area, and all other subjects that should be in that area are actually now found in that area. It's a very simple bill.
And you have witnesses in support.
Good morning, Brian Augusta on behalf of the Golden State Manufactured Homeowners League. As the author says, it is a simple bill, and we think a good consumer bill that helps make the MRL more readable for those who use it. And as the author has indicated, in the short time that I've been with GSMOL, I've been impressed about the extent to which our members, residents of mobile home parks, rely on the text of the MRL to understand their rights. This is a version of the MRL which is distributed similar to what is distributed by many park owners as required under the MRL. And if you look at it, you can see that there are no headings to each of the code sections. There's just a number. There is a heading for the article, but it makes it very difficult without those headings to read. And so we think the reorganization of this will help by grouping like sections together, will make it easier for mobile home residents to determine what their rights are and find the correct sections and have a proper interpretation of the MRL. And for that reason, we think this is a really simple bill, and we would urge an aye vote.
Thank you.
I'm John Tennyson, a consultant to the Senate Select Committee on Manufactured Homes, and this bill really came out of our experience in the committee dealing with constituent problems. We get a lot of calls from mobile home residents and some park managers. One of the common problems that we encounter, people are looking for a certain code section. They've been told that, for example, they're supposed to get a 30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day notice about something. They can't always find it because the way the mobile home residency law is organized right now, especially the copies that are distributed, there are no subtitles. And so although the Department of Housing and Community Development and our committee on our websites have the MRL, we call it the MRL, Mobile Home Residency Law, with subtitles, the copies that are given out usually to residents by park owners and other groups do not have that advantage. So what we're attempting to do is reorganize some of the code sections, no substantive language change, to put them or group them, as the Senator has said, for example, utility issues under one article. And we have been working with the park owners. Originally, the bill had about 25 or 30 changes. We've reduced that down to about 12 to 14. That's about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone in opposition? Assemblymember Herky? I was going to call you Diane, and now it's too.
That's okay. You can
casual.
do that. Behind the scenes. I understand why you want to do this. I get it. I get it. 180%. What I'm wondering is there an active like working group, or has there been an active working group that could somehow bring the parties together to get this so that it's agreed upon by both? I heard that you said you whittled some of it down, but we still got some opposition. And my fear is that we increase potential for litigation and whatnot if in fact it's not equally understood. I mean, we have, or I understand because consumers do have issues with a lot of our regs. My office is filled, absolutely filled with law books from California, and this is all just California law. And housing has huge sections, so I understand that. But I'm just trying to see if there can't be some kind of your handbook with the titles and whatnot, but just make the parties agree so that we're not opening up the potential for somebody having a wrong copy, somebody having a right copy, then somebody gets sued because they haven't passed out the most recent copy, and I'm just, I'm a little confused.
Let me, I think you bring up an excellent comment there, and let's think about what your point you just made. Possibly, I won't speak for the opposition, but what the opposition is saying, that because of these changes, there'll be an increase in litigation. There's nothing substantive that's happening here. We're not changing the law. We're talking about citizens who don't want to hire a lawyer. We're talking about citizens who want to turn to the mobile home park residency law by themselves and look up the law. We're making it easier for them to do that. The result is there will be no misunderstanding. A lot of the problems, in my opinion, based on all the town halls I've been to, is people don't know the law. So they get mad, they call us, they go hire a lawyer, then they go after the mobile home park owners. If you have all the law in front of you, understand it, that actually reduces the opportunity for lawsuits. We're not changing the law, Ms. Harkey. All we're saying is, let's clarify it so the average citizen doesn't have to go out and hire an attorney. They can just look it up. Isn't that the best thing you can do to reduce litigation? We're not changing the law. We're just making it simpler. We're taking away the legalese so people won't have to look through this thing. Now, I will tell you what I would do to make sure that misunderstandings of different versions of the book are not around. Why don't we take an amendment? Say make it effective in a year or two. That way, people know in that year that, we'll have enough time to distribute the new copies. One of the efforts that has been entered into by my office is to try to bring government, try to bring the law closer to the people. That's why we've gone out of our way to translate this law into other languages as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I hesitate to think that anything that you pick up that is legally supportable and defendable is going to be easy for anyone to understand. It's just not. Our laws are so convoluted. So I appreciate your efforts, but let me hear from the other side.
Let me go ahead.
What goes on
Mr.
here.
Tennyson is the one that would...
Before we do that, let's establish quorum.
Torres?
Here.
Harkey? Here. Ing? Fletcher? Here. Mall? Here. Saldana?
Okay, we have quorum.
I just wanted to respond to Ms. Harkey's question about the working group. Yes, we've had a quasi-working group with the park owners and the homeowners. When this bill started, we've had several different drafts. That was part of this process of reducing from the original version to a much more scoped-down version that we have now. One of the problems that we looked at was, as Mr. Augusta pointed out, the sections do not have subtitles, which is very confusing. And we investigated that with Legislative Counsel about actually putting subtitles into the law, and they said this would be unprecedented, can't be done, not the way to go. So we abandoned that route. But we're still open to meeting with the various parties of interest.
Okay, we'll let the opposition speak for themselves. Thank you.
Catherine Borg with the Western Manufactured Housing Communities Association. We are opposed. We do believe that, first of all, let me thank the author and especially the consultant, John Tennyson, who worked most of our concerns out as far as, took off all the sections that would have required us to redo all of our forms. That was a concern of ours, that statewide all the attorneys and groups would have to redo their forms because of the different code sections. As far as that, I think that this is in pretty good shape. We just disagree as whether or not we think that this is going to make a substantial change in the residents being able to read this very long document that we're required by law to give out every year. We have a table of contents on the front, so if somebody wants to, although it doesn't have the titles within there because the law doesn't. Well, actually, we do actually have some titles, but not on every section. But there is a table of contents that does describe everything. I would have to go back to my folks on whether or not we would want to delay implementation, because I think that would further confuse matters, because it's not going to cost us anything new to redistribute this, because we have to, by law, distribute this by February 1st each year. I'm more concerned that if we delay implementation and now all the code books out there are going to have, this one's this year, this one's next year, I think that's going to create more confusion. So I would respectfully request to not take an amendment in this committee on that issue, and we will talk to our folks. But because I don't think that's that would help matters. But thank you very much.
Senator Correa, let's finish off with the opposition, and you can address them.
Trent Smith, representing the California Mobile Home Park Owners Alliance. We too are opposed. I think it's a very well-intended bill. We would love it if many of our residents had a better understanding of the MRL. We would love it, probably many of the managers and owners too. But having just renumbering it, we're not convinced is going to make it any clearer. At the end of the day, the text is still what matters, and that's probably the more confusing part of the MRL. And our big concern is by just rearranging the numbers, it's going to lead to more confusion rather than more clarification.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in opposition? No? Okay, Senator Correa, would you like to close?
I think the opposition makes a very good point, which is the confusion of the law, and I think any lay person out there is confused. I know any of us, even us that are members of the bar, you learn how to think. You don't actually learn the law, so every time we go into a different area of the law, you have to relearn it. The laws change every year, every 2 years, so this code is actually amended every year. Every 2 years. So for the opposition to say it's going to create confusion, I'm not quite sure how that logic flows, because you're changing the law constantly. And all what you're doing is, when the next set of books comes out, they'll actually be renumbered. Again, we're not changing any aspect of the law. We're making it easier, simplifying the way people look up the law. And in my opinion, that's the first start towards mitigating, towards reducing litigation, that all sides on an issue understand the law. What could be simpler? That's what this bill is all about.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a motion? I'll second.
The motions do pass. Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. Harkey? Harkey, no. Ing? Fletcher? I beg your pardon? Oh, Fletcher, no. Ma? Ma, aye. Saldana? The vote is 2-2. The bill's on call.
Okay, your bill's on call. The vote's 2-2.
Votes 2-2. How many votes do I need, Madam? 4. Thank you very much.
You want to take on your next bill?
I'm sorry.
Senate Bill 224.
On my way to
housing
work the bill already.
Don't leave yet.
Madam Chair, what this bill, Senate Bill 224, does is two things. It provides that local agencies administering the CalHome funds cannot exclude low-income applicants based on the fact that they live in mobile homes. And second of all, it authorizes the California Housing Finance Agency, or CHAFA, which administers the California Homebuyers Down Payment Assistance Program, to permit down payment loans to be subordinated to refinancing of the mortgages if CHAFA determines it is necessary for homeowners to avoid this foreclosure, meaning that some of these homeowners need to refinance. This legislation, if there's a CHAFA loan there, enables the refinancing to be done, and for the CHAFA loan, which is generally a second, so to speak, to be subordinated to the refinancing.
Okay. And you have witnesses in support?
Yes, we do have witnesses in support.
Hi, I'm Di Richardson with the California Housing Finance Agency, and as the Senator explained, the CHDAP loan program that we operate, that we administer, is funded by Prop 46 and Prop 1C funds. That statute, when it was written, we didn't anticipate the drop in property values that we've seen the last couple of years. So when it was written to say that if you pay off your first, or you refinance, or you sell your home, you have to repay your second. That allows us to recover those funds and lend them out to new borrowers. Unfortunately, we've seen a number of our borrowers that have experienced economic hardship. Some of them have lost their jobs, and they're eligible for the refinance program offered by the federal government, the Making Homes Affordable program. And what we would like to do, when we get those calls now, we don't have the authority to let that second sit with the new first. We have to say no. And so for a lot of those borrowers, their only option is foreclosure. By allowing us to subordinate to a new loan in those situations, we think we'll have a better chance of recovering those funds a little bit further down the road, and will allow those people to hopefully avoid foreclosure.
Okay.
Brian DeGusta on behalf of GSMOL. On the CalHome piece of this, it's just a simple clarification to make it clear that mobile homeowners, or that the CalHome funds can be used for retrofitting of a mobile home, which is going to become increasingly important as HCD implements its regulations to protect mobile homeowners in wake of the recent wildfires, to upgrade homes with ignition-resistant exterior materials. And this would be a critical source of funding for those, which can be as much as $15,000 per home. So we support this very simple clarification. Thank you.
Assemblymember Harkey.
I would like to compliment the author. This is a very great, it's a great bill. It really is. It simplifies everything, and it helps the people that when they really need it. We're, constantly putting more and more regulations, shoving them down, and without the ability for people to meet them. And this is one of those things where we've made I think, a very, very wise move, and I applaud you. Thank you.
Matt, through the chair, do I see a co-authorship request?
You do.
Okay. Anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Is there a motion? Oh, Assemblymember.
I'd like to co-author as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a motion? Motion and a second. Do pass.
Do pass to appropriations. Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. Harkey? Aye. Harkey, aye. Ing? Fletcher? Aye. Fletcher, aye. Ma? Aye. Ma, aye. Saldana? The vote is 4-0.
Okay, Senator, your bill is out. Congratulations, 4-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Honorables.
Thank you.
As well as I. It would be a pleasure.
And now we will move on to item number 3, Senate Bill 183. Senator Lowenthal. Welcome, Senator, Chair of the Senate Housing and Community Development.
And former chair of Assembly Housing.
Former
It's a
chair.
pleasure to be back, members, and to see all my old friends and staff. First, I'd like to agree with the author's amendments on page 6 of the analysis that clarifies that the fire marshal must review the manufacturer's instructions for compliance with the building standards in regard to the number of carbon monoxide devices and placements. We are committed to working with the opposition. We believe this will remove, and you'll hear from the opposition, this is really their concern. And we've worked with them. We think that's a legitimate and reasonable way of clarifying that there will be no inconsistency between the building standards and the manufacturer's instructions for compliance. Members, carbon monoxide is the leading cause of accidental poisoning deaths in the United States. Unfortunately, the initial symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning are similar to that of the flu, so therefore it's often misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, and sadly at times leads to permanent injury or death because it was just misdiagnosed. And, the Air Resources Board estimates that every year in California, carbon monoxide poisoning results in up to 40 deaths a year, 175 to 700 emergency room visits. Again, it's hard to know. We know that at least hundreds of them are carbon monoxide. Others are symptoms like it, but it was misdiagnosed. We're just not clear. What SB 183 does is simply requires that all single-family homes have a carbon monoxide detector like these, which are not very expensive. This is a simple one, and now there's lots of products out there that have been tested and that are reliable. Here's one for a little over $30 that provides you both the carbon monoxide detector and the smoke detector. So you just have to put one in. And so for just almost the same cost as a smoke detector, you can also get a carbon monoxide detector built in to meet the requirements. And you're going to see on the market, as more and more states, now 18 states have done this, because it's the leading cause, that have pushed the manufacturers to begin to move in this direction. So we're going to see a lot more smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in one. This is a bipartisan measure. I think it's a fair measure, and that's responsibly drawn, and I have witnesses in support, and I ask for your aye vote.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. I'm Kathy Baranka. I represent the California Coalition for Children's Safety and Health and the California Industrial Hygiene Council. We're in very strong support. Our Industrial Hygiene Council in particular has the obligations many times to go out to locations where the carbon monoxide poisoning has occurred and deal with the families who have lost loved ones and others. And our Coalition for Children's Safety and Health is committed to sponsoring and supporting legislation which protects children's lives. And it's interesting, particularly with carbon monoxide, in that children are the first ones to feel the effects and often are the first ones to die as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning, because the amount of oxygen in their bodies is replaced very quickly by the carbon monoxide. So we are very strongly in support of this bill. It's a simple measure, just like putting in as Senator said, just putting in a smoke detector, and it saves lives. We urge your support.
Christine Menahan on behalf of Western Center on Law and Poverty. We're in support of this legislation because lower income tenants are the most likely to have poorly maintained appliances, and they are the most likely to suffer the impacts. So we urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Afrak Vargas, and I'm with the California State Firefighters Association. We're co-sponsors of this bill, and we're proud to be working with our former Legislator of the Year, Alan Lowenthal, for several years on this issue now. And this is not an exact repeat of last year's bill. Our coalition has been very diligent in going around and meeting with the different folks. And we even just yesterday met with the governor's office to let them know, hey, we're not just here to jam another bill, the same bill, back at you. This is a very different bill. The governor's veto message suggested that we go through the regulatory process for the new construction to work with the state building standards with the commission, and we're diligently working with those folks. The governor's office, of course, didn't mention that they said they don't have a position at this time, but it was a very good meeting to say the least, and we're proud to co-sponsor this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Trent Smith on behalf of the California Alarm Association in support of the bill. This bill is very consistent with the overall goal of our members, which is to protect life and safety, and we'd urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Assemblymember Ma?
Thank you very much. And I'm just learning about this as well, and so I think it's great that there are already products out there on the market. I think it's better to be safe than sorry. I thank you for raising this issue. I don't think a lot of people know about it, and so it is a good safety measure, and I'd like to be added as a co-author.
Thank you, and we will do that.
Assemblymember Fletcher?
Is it, Senator Lowenthal, it's my understanding that since 86, homes have been required to have smoke detectors. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just simply saying a carbon monoxide. In addition, you're already required to have a smoke detector.
Absolutely.
What's the price differential between if you know, if you don't know, it's okay, but between a smoke detector and one of the combo or joint units?
I think they're almost the same. Obviously, as to follow up on Assemblymember Ma, for a number of years, there were not really a lot of reliable products out there, so the price was somewhat up, and it was more. But as more and more states have done this, and now as the reliability of the products the prices come down significantly. There are a lot more products out. They've been accepted by the buildings, looked as acceptable. And so that's no longer a criticism. And I think they're roughly the same. They range from about $18 at 15 some places, up to about $40 or $50 really in that range, which is somewhat pretty similar also, maybe a slight bit more than.
So you're already required to have the smoke detector.
Absolutely required
to
have
add in
these.
this, so
And
the cost for replacement.
And the governor last year vetoed, not because he wasn't interested and thought it was an important bill, but he did not want us to legislate on new homes, and that he wanted us to go through the building standards and commission to do that, how they're going to put that in, and just to focus on the existing stock that's out there. And so we have responded to that. We've been meeting with the governor's office, and they're very much aware that we have met their needs.
And it's 24 other states that currently do this?
I believe it's 18 that have. It's now up to 24.
Up to 24. Okay. And then last question: what is I know the effective dates in 2011 and 2012 for the different categories. Is there any carbon monoxide police that are going to come in your home and see if you have done this? I know I get the point of sale, and I understand the building permit.
No, we're not going to have the carbon. This is similar to other when there are things in the building standards in the code, and basically there are two ways. One. In terms of enforcement, one is like any other permit that you ever pull in your house, and at the fire marshal, they may do that. But even then, you have 30 days to do it without a fine or anything. Right. So even if they come in not looking, there's nobody going out. There's no enforcement mechanism. Right. And the other one is that although it does not affect point of sale in any way, it's not a condition for the transfer of property, the disclosure statement will be modified to have that, but that's all that there is.
So that'd be consistent with when you buy a house. You have all of the different things that are listed there, and you can negotiate that out during the purchase or sale of them.
But it does not in any way affect the point of sale at all, or in any way puts any liability on the real estate folks. That's why they're in support.
Assemblymember Fletcher, I just recently purchased a combo unit, and the difference was about $6 and some change between a single smoke detector and a combo. So it wasn't much. Assemblymember Harkey.
Yes. Is this? I'm new to this bill, so I'm trying to understand it. Because I know now in larger homes there are several smoke detectors all over the place. Some of them are battery operated, some of them are electrically operated. The battery operated ones, if the battery goes out, it's real easy to get them to shut up. You just pull the battery out and forget about it. Is this going to apply to existing rental homes now, or at the time of point of renting and all? Or rental units? Will there be an inspection for it, or how will this be handled?
Again, it's the landlord's responsibility. We're not putting in an enforcement or an inspection process. Again, if there's ever a permit that's pulled at that, as I just pointed out, for other kinds of work or in the building or fire marshals, they go out to check all kinds of residents at that time. Will also, if there's a permit that's pulled to fix a rental property, they can cite you for anything, for smoke detectors. They'll be able to do that.
My concern not is really not it's a citation. My concern is that you have a long-term tenant that's been in the house for a while, and when they move in, you've got this all installed, and then the beep goes off. They pull out whatever apparatus it is, and they don't tell the landlord. Who's to blame?
Well, I think you have the same issues there that you have with smoke detectors.
Well, that's what I want to know. What happens then?
The fire.
I want to know.
It may have been the legislator of the year, but the fire person is going to answer that question. I have no idea.
Okay, there's someone here that can answer that question. If you can identify yourself.
Well, I think this is the former opposition that's coming forward, and they also represent the apartment owners. So perhaps Ron would like to take a crack at that.
I'm just asking a question. I want to know who's liable if the tenant doesn't.
And the bill does state that the tenant is responsible for notifying the owner.
Right.
That is correct.
Yes.
If they go on.
Go on.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ron Kingston representing Apartment Association in California Southern Cities, the former opposition. Last year and this year, last year's bill and this year's bill, we worked out a provision in the bill. It appears on page 18, lines 25 through 33, and it just says, in essence, that the unit shall be operable at the time that the new tenant takes occupancy, and the tenant is to be responsible for notifying the owner if the device becomes inoperable or deficient. So if the tenant, under your example, removes the battery, they have the obligation to tell the landlord of that fact. And the landlord doesn't become liable due to that action of that tenant. And that was an important element of this, because these devices, unlike smoke detectors, just have a certain life. As you will read the instructions in most of these manuals, they'll just say 7 years. And then you are to replace these CO devices, unlike smoke detectors that last forever, unless destroyed.
They really don't. But
so let me mention one thing, if I may, as long as we have the floor, Madam Chair. Our association has worked very well with the author, his staff, the committee staff, and proponents on the one remaining issue which will be resolved as we work through this bill, and that is one really important element, and that will be done between now and Judiciary Committee, which is we want to make sure that the installation instructions are included and approved by the state. Those installation instructions also are to state where, or the placement or location, if you will, of the units. And finally, still in connection with that those installation instructions that are going to be included in each packet or each box, as Mr. Lowenthal showed you earlier, that they also report what the new building code standard is, so there is no confusion in terms of how to install it and where to install it.
just to clarify a point, you are still the opposition, or you are removing?
As a result of reaching agreement, we have removed our opposition on this, and we greatly appreciate finally coming to agreement as to our final deal point, if you will.
Okay, Member Harkey, were you done, or
No, I just wanted to say I wasn't prompted to ask that question. It was I was just thinking through the process of how you would enforce it and what would happen. So I'm very, very happy to hear that we had that added. I think it sounds like a good bill. Thank you.
Member Fletcher.
Thank you. Mr. Kingston, did you say smoke detectors last forever?
Smoke detectors last for a very long time. These units, as you will read in the...
How many years is a long time, in your estimation?
Well...
I'm trying to assess the difference between a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector in terms of the length. So forever is really long, really, really long time. Is that 50 years, 100 years, 10 years? What do you think?
Well, there is 10 plus years.
10 plus how many? Plus 10 plus 10 or 10 plus 2? I'm trying to get a sense of how long these things have to be replaced.
May I answer that question, if I may?
Thank you, Senator.
The manufacturer's instructions and most smoke detectors say 10 years, right on the instructions. This will say 7 years, so there's going to be a 3-year.
Nexus of 3 years difference. And then the second, Mr. Kingston, you want the instructions on how to install them put in statute?
It will direct the state to state that through the approval process of the devices, that they also include the approval of the installation instructions, which is absolutely critical. And part of the installation instructions will specify 2 things, or actually 3: how to install it, where to install it, and 3, to cite what the new building code standards.
Where will that be, I guess is my question. That's going to be in the law book?
It will be inside each box, each product that is sold.
Are there instructions in the one there on how to install it?
Yeah. So really what we're saying is that the instructions that you get will be consistent with what the building standard says are their instructions. And in the actual selection of these, it will be, which ones are approved. We will work out that to make sure with the manufacturer that those instructions that they are given in those are consistent with where the Building Standards Commission says it should be placed, and that'll be part of the process.
And you're okay with that?
We're fine with that. We think that that's really what should be done anyway.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Assemblymember Zelaya?
I think this bill last session, it was vetoed. Was I a co-author then?
Yes, you were.
I thought so. I'd like to be added since you're amending again. And you did an excellent hearing, an interim session hearing that I recall that was
That's right.
very informative. And also, did you hear the testimony of family members who had lost children to carbon monoxide was...
You see it in pools, around pools, pool rooms. We had people come to that who said that their kids had been just resting after being in a pool room, and they were poisoned because no one had checked in the way there. And so it was right. I think what happened, what we had learned was just the extent of this, and people that had been not known that dizziness, and that really had to do with an ongoing leak at some point that no one was able to detect. And so you're right. I found it. That's really what.
Well, no, the testimony was very compelling, and that's what led to the bill last year. And so I'd be happy to join as a co-author again. I do have a question on Section 4 on page 17, where it talks about fossil fuel burning heater or appliance. So if you have a gas-burning stove, if you have a natural gas stove, that would constitute a requirement, as opposed to an all-electric unit.
That's right.
Which would not require that.
That's right.
So there would be exemptions.
Absolutely.
For all
We're only
electric
going to
households.
target those in which there potentially is carbon monoxide poisoning.
Mm-hmm. And well, no, I think you answered the question that the tenant is responsible for if something fails, they need to alert the
For
landlord.
notifying the landlord, yes.
And then that comes up with the question that maybe this beyond the purview of this committee, but there is a question of what is a durable item that is the landlord's responsibility to replace, and maybe you represent the tenants or the apartments. Who would shoulder the cost for replacing that?
Landlord.
I'm sorry?
The landlord would replace the unit and replace the batteries.
Okay, so it is their responsibility.
Yes.
So, well, again, I just, having been through hearing the testimony and hearing from the families that had gone through this, and some had survived, but
right.
I think when it just purchased a house, they had renovated it, and the heater had some work done. And I
it
just
wasn't
recounted.
connected. Remember, they had forgotten to, when they had come in frequently, we had heard that when houses had been renovated, some connection had been left off. No one had noticed it until there was all these symptoms, and then fortunately, and sometimes they had found out that there had been, to everyone's surprise, that there had been carbon monoxide poisoning going on.
But I think every winter we hear reports
Right.
of these cases around the state. So I think this is a very important bill. I'm glad you've modified it to the point where it looks like the governor can approve and sign this. So thank you for continuing to work on this.
Member Harkey.
Frequently in winter months, there are, even when in rainy days, people will bring a barbecue into the house.
That's right.
And this would definitely make the alarm go off. Tell them no. We've had people barbecuing in sinks in some units.
That's exactly what will happen.
It's amazing. Yeah. You used to do that in college. Well, I'm just saying that this is like, it's lunacy on its face, but it does happen.
Yes, it does. And I think people are surprised we're just not aware of that, how often it does happen.
Well, Senator Lowenthal, I do want to thank you for this bill. As a responsible landlord myself, I have one of these devices installed in my rental unit. One day in the middle of the night, I received a call from my tenant saying that the alarm was going off. And it does its job. And for the price that we paid for that unit, 5 years ago, $26, it was the liability for me as the property owner. $26 is nothing compared to the life that could have been lost had I not done that. So thank you very much for bringing this to our attention and for ensuring that families are safe while they're sleeping.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, I'm John Smock, representing the Apartment Association of Orange County. As Mr. Kingston had indicated, our interest in this was not substantive with respect to the policy of either requiring it or not requiring it, but instead to make sure that if the legislature and the governor do approve this, that it works, so that the amendments that have been suggested are entirely satisfactory to us, and we're satisfied that the bill will work as planned.
Thank you. Would you like to close?
No, I think that I would just urge your aye vote.
Okay, we have a motion.
As amended.
And a second.
Yes.
The motions do pass as amended to judiciary. Torres? Aye. Torres, aye. Harkey? Aye. Harkey, aye. Ing? Fletcher? Aye. Fletcher, aye. Ma? Ma, aye. Saldana? Saldana, aye. The vote is 5-0.
Thank you.
Your bill is out, 5-0. Thank you very much.
Let's do the consent item, item number 2.
Okay, let's move on to the consent calendar for item number 2, Senate Bill 166. Motion is due pass. Is there a motion? Motion and a second.
SB 166, due pass to appropriations. On consent, Torres? Aye. Torres, aye. Harkey? Aye. Harkey, aye. Ing? Fletcher? Aye. Fletcher, aye. Ma? Aye. Ma, aye. Saldana? Saldana, aye. The vote is 5-0.
Okay. That bill is out, and we have one item on call. We'll wait 5 minutes for Mr. Eng to come in. Thank you, members, for being here. I will lift the call on Senate Bill 111.
SB 111, the motions do pass. The vote is 2-2. Ing? Saldana? Saldana, aye. The vote is 3-2.
Mr. Eng?
Ing, aye.
No. We'll hold it for add-ons.